Did you know that C.S. Lewis, one of the most celebrated Christian authors of the 20th century, wrote a book that is still widely read and discussed today? The book is called Mere Christianity, and in this video, we're going to be exploring part 1, titled Right and Wrong as a Clue to the Meaning of the Universe, specifically Chapter 2, Some Objections. In this chapter, Lewis addresses some common objections to his argument that there is a universal moral law that points to the existence of God. One of the objections he addresses is the idea that different cultures have different moral codes, so there can't be a universal moral law. Lewis responds to this objection by pointing out that while different cultures may have different customs and traditions, there are certain moral principles that are universally recognized. For example, nearly all cultures agree that it is wrong to kill innocent people or to lie and cheat. These principles are not dependent on cultural norms, but rather on a deeper moral law that is part of the fabric of the universe. To illustrate this point, Lewis uses the example of a group of people who are lost in a forest and stumble upon a clearing where there is a man lying dead on the ground. Even if these people come from different cultures with different customs and beliefs, they will all recognize that something is seriously wrong and that the man's death is a tragedy. This is because the moral law is written on their hearts, and they cannot help but recognize it. Another objection that Lewis addresses is the idea that the moral law is simply a product of evolution, a survival mechanism that has been hardwired into our brains over time. Lewis responds to this objection by pointing out that while certain instincts may be beneficial for survival, they do not necessarily correspond to moral principles. For example, it may be beneficial for a group of animals to work together to protect their territory, but it is not necessarily morally right for them to do so. To illustrate this point, Lewis uses the example of a group of soldiers who are ordered to kill innocent civilians. While their instinct may be to follow orders and protect their comrades, they will recognize that what they are being asked to do is morally wrong. This is because the moral law is not simply a product of instinct, but rather something that transcends our natural inclinations. Finally, Lewis addresses the objection that the moral law is simply a matter of personal opinion, that what is right for one person may not be right for another. Lewis responds to this objection by pointing out that while people may have different opinions on moral issues, there are certain principles that are universally recognized. For example, nearly all cultures agree that it is wrong to betray someone who has trusted you or to be unfaithful to a spouse. To illustrate this point, Lewis uses the example of a group of people who are playing a game. While they may have different opinions on the rules of the game, they all agree that cheating is wrong. This is because the moral law is not a matter of personal opinion, but rather something that is recognized by all people at a fundamental level. As we can see from these examples, the moral law is not simply a matter of personal opinion or cultural norms, but rather something that is universal and transcendent. By recognizing this fact, we can begin to see that there is a deeper meaning to the universe, a purpose that goes beyond our own individual desires and instincts. To wrap up, here are 3 quotes from Chapter 2, Some Objections that summarize Lewis' arguments. The moment you say that one set of moral ideas can be better than another, you are, in fact, measuring them both by a standard, saying that one of them conforms to that standard more nearly than the other. That the standard that measures two things is something different from either. You are, in fact, comparing them both with some real morality, admitting that there is such a thing as a real right, independent of what people think, and that some people's ideas get nearer to that real right than others. This quote emphasizes the idea that the existence of a universal moral law implies the existence of a standard of right and wrong that is independent of human opinion. The fact that different cultures recognize certain moral principles suggests that there is a real morality that transcends cultural norms and individual opinions. If nothing but the universe existed, and if the universe were a wholly mindless mechanism, you could never discover by studying it that it hated hatred and loved love. This quote highlights the idea that the moral law points to the existence of a conscious, loving God. If the universe were simply a mindless mechanism, there would be no reason to believe that it valued things like love and justice. The fact that we can recognize these values suggests that they are part of a larger, transcendent reality. But the most remarkable thing is this. Whenever you find a man who says he does not believe in a real right and wrong, you will find the same man going back on this a moment later. He may break his promise to you, but if you try breaking one to him he will be complaining, "It's not fair," before you can say Jack Robinson. This quote points out the paradoxical nature of denying the existence of a universal moral law. Even those who claim to reject the idea of right and wrong still appeal to these concepts when they feel that they have been wronged or treated unfairly. This suggests that the moral law is deeply ingrained in our nature, and that we cannot escape its influence even if we try to deny its existence. As we come to the end of Chapter 2 of C.S. Lewis' Mere Christianity, it's clear that he has laid out a compelling argument for the existence of a universal moral law. Despite objections and counter-arguments, Lewis suggests that the fact that different cultures and societies recognize certain moral principles points to the existence of a higher, transcendent reality. In the next chapter, Lewis will delve further into the nature of this transcendent reality and explore the implications of the moral law for our understanding of God in the universe. He will tackle questions such as, what is the relationship between the moral law and God? How can we reconcile the existence of evil and suffering with the existence of a loving, all-powerful God? So, I invite you to join me in our next video as we continue our journey through Mere Christianity, and explore the profound implications of Lewis' ideas for our understanding of the universe and our place in it. Thanks for watching.